On course for 200, maybe even 220. Punjab have somehow conspired to finish their innings at just 180. Of course, you'd have to give full credit to the Chennai bowlers, particularly Dwayne Pretorius and Chris Jordan, with some great pace-off bowling. 2 for 23, 2 for 30 between them, and that really changed the course of an innings that started well for them and finished brilliantly for them. Just a little bit of action as far as Punjab were concerned from the bat of Shikhar Dhawan and, of course, Liam Livingstone. That's the score they finished at. Here we are on Cricbuzz Live to try and assess whether or not somehow they can conspire to defend a score that looks well below par. I'm joined by Parthiv Patel and Ajay Jadeja. Ajay, the other day we were on the show and I talked about that Annai Salai policeman. Today, that same policeman landed up on the highway that they were cruising on, put a little diversion sign, and suddenly they found themselves on back roads at 6 and over in the last few overs.
You're absolutely right. They showed that diversion, back roads, and then there was a ditch in there. So they all went into that ditch. It's amazing. I mean, what we've seen this year, most teams have actually, what you see on your screen, the last bit has been the easiest part in this year's IPL. Everybody seems to be cruising at that stage. And what Punjab's done to themselves, they have no one to bail. But you got to give credit to the Chennai bowlers. I think they did an exceptional job at the end. At the start of the game, when you look at Pretorius, Bravo, and Jordan, you think these are like they play for their sides, bowl towards the end of the innings. But three of them together, I think, spun a web around Punjab, and Punjab had no answers by then. They lost too many wickets, too many together, and you're absolutely right. They're a little short.
Well short. And if you had a look at the previous graphic, I was going to jump in there and said there's a little bit of a typo. I didn't want to scare the graphics guys who do such a hard job. What I meant to say was it should say Punjab innings regression and not progression. You've gone from 12 to 9 to 7 to 6. It's supposed to go up, not down, guys, Parthiv.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you got to give credit to CSK bowlers also. I thought their planning and execution was right on top. I thought they allowed everyone. Their planning was perfect. There was, if you look at the dimensions of the ground, it was just one side was really small and other side was big. They constantly bowled outside the off stump. They actually didn't give them that pace. They forced CSK batters to drag through leg side. And if we had that wagon wheel, I think that most of the runs have been scored through offside, and that offside has often been the longer side from either side of the wicket. So I think planning was perfect. And yes, I think if you look at Punjab's approach throughout this 3 games, whatever we've seen, I think it's all about all guts and glory. I think that's something which they will try and play, but I think somehow they'll have to find one player to hold on the end and play a striker to 120. Only then someone like Livingstone or Banu Rajapaksa or Shah Rukh Khan, the finisher which we are talking about, or Odean Smith, can go out there and play the way they want to play.
Yeah, at the moment, he's not even playing the supporting role as Shah Rukh Khan. We expected him to play a lead role when it comes to the end of the innings. But you could see, Ajay, they've done their homework. Of course, pace-off works anyway. But for someone like an Odean Smith, he loves pace on the ball. Either you bowl spin to him when it's assisting you, or if the quick bowlers are bowling, pace off, pace off, pace off. He hadn't a clue. He was just winding up and not getting anywhere.
He is that sort of a player, isn't he? I mean, it's unfair to actually equate him into Russell's, level of play, but quite similar in style. When they come in there, it's not about who's at the other end, how it's being played. They have their arc, and Russell's done it more often. So, I'm not trying to equate them, but just similar styles of play. And what happens with Russell as well, when their day is not his, and things are not going right, they look a little out of place. And, today Odean Smith definitely was fooled by Pretorius, ball after ball. And at that stage, Odean Smith, I've seen a very little of him. You've seen more of him in West Indies. What I saw with him in the Indian series as well, it's a chance that you take. I mean, it's not something that you could rely on, or he has a plan B or plan C. So if you don't get into that arc, or as you mentioned, if he doesn't get the pace that he's looking for, then they don't have many, at least him at the moment, doesn't seem to have any other option or any other answer to what he's going to do. So it's either 6 or nothing. So it's a chance that you take with players like this. And today is one of those days that it hasn't worked for him.
You've just got to know how to deal with him. Let's just say that you wouldn't sit down on a table with him and take him on in arm wrestling in Punjab. You'd probably lose 10 times out of 10 in that. But if you have to play on a cricket field, be a little clever and you can get him out. But Parthiv, let's go back to the power play. Two parts of it. One, they started brilliantly, got that early wicket, and then came the run out. We talk about great keepers. You were having this little mutual discussion between yourself and MSD. I mean, 41, really? We need to check his passport.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like sprinting like something like as proper. I think the game awareness was right there. Usually what happens is when as a keeper, that if there is no run out chance, you try and just amble around. You don't just sprint through to the stumps because there are 20 overs. You don't just sprint every time to the stump. And this time around when he knew there could be an opportunity here and he just sprinted through the. Whatever we know of MS Dhoni is the game awareness. That he's master of understanding the game situation and where to bowl to a bowler or which situation where to run. We famously know that Bangladesh run out which he did. He did not take that chance of throwing where he knew could go there and take the stumps off. And here he understands the game and whatever we talk about MS Dhoni would be less and in terms of understanding the game situation.
But yeah, he certainly did that beautifully. There were 2 wickets down and then began the Livingstone show. He was lucky in a sense, Ajay. The 2 wickets sort of played into Livingstone's hands because he got 4 overs of power play batting. And you could see outside the power play, he was good, but he needs a little bit of that. Maybe there's a case for him batting one place up the order, perhaps, Ajay?
Yes, I mean, it's a case that could be argued, and probably you'll win the case as well because the more time he gets, and especially with that power play that you said, any striker, I think most strikers enjoy that, and especially if you play seam bowling as well as he plays, he enjoys fast bowlers. And today he just got after the young man in that stage. It just seems to be the case. Last night it was Butler who got after the young man there. So people are targeting bowlers in a different way. And if he bats up the order, then who do you leave out? Rajapaksa has to go back. Johnny, if he's replaced, then it's going to be Johnny. So it'll be a tough one. And, you've got Mayank Agarwal and Shikhar Dhawan at the top. So you're not going to leave them out as well. Ideally, he would like to go up the order because it's 1 wicket less down whenever he walks in. So that's a different pressure. And he gets more balls within that power play. But I don't see that happening, at least at the moment. But never say never with Punjab because I didn't see Bawa being dropped in the 3rd game of this series as well. Once he was picked, if he wasn't playing, that was different. So Punjab does surprise us. They they play differently. They try and work their team around a bit too much for my liking. But ask Livingstone, he'd love to bat at 3.
He certainly would. But is it about something about the approach part? Do they need to? I mean, we don't know how this game is going to finish. But either way, they're going to have to sit down and assess their batting. They can get to 200, not end up defending it. They could do all kinds of things, Punjab. But if they had to look at this lineup with Bairstow coming in, what role do you see Mayank Agarwal playing? We've seen him bat through the innings. We've seen him make big scores. Is he your 120 strike rate player to hold the innings together?
I think approach is going to be more or less like this. I mean, that's something which they probably have decided. Then now that they've got 180, we've seen them getting 130. We've seen them getting 200, and I won't be surprised in one of the game they would score 240 because the way they are batting. I think Mayank Agarwal or Shikhar Dhawan. I think one of the opener will be your man to play that 120, 125 strike rate. But they both will start aggressively in power play. And if someone gets out and then your Livingstone comes in, your Rajapaksa or Johnny Bairstow comes in place of Rajapaksa just in case, then you're one of the top 2 could try and play till 18th over, and rest of the players just play the way they are playing. So I think approach is something they will have to think of because it's not that that with this approach there will always be inconsistency. There will not be days where every time you'll hit and it'll come through. There'll be days where they'll get 120 and they'll have to hope that with this approach that they get more 200 days and lesser 120 or 140 kind of days.
Just to finish on this discussion, Ajay, is there a case, that's on the top of the order, is there a case for a team like Punjab who go hard to look hard at their 6, 7, 8? And I know when we talk about a number 8, he doesn't play too many balls in a T20, but say 6 and 7. Is there a case for saying we need somebody there as a more experienced finisher or is Shah Rukh Khan just the one to do it? He just hasn't done it till now.
I mean, Shah Rukh Khan is, rated very highly amongst the cricketing circle. He's somebody who, is considered not just, a big striker of the ball, but somebody who understands the game and plays it how it's required. You saw that today. He was trying to play a whole different role because suddenly the game had changed. For me, I think mindset is very important, GB. What happens is at the start of the game, you already confused the whole side by, taking out a couple of guys that you thought were future. Then you send in Ritesh, who did exceptionally well today, not taking anything away from him. But when you make somebody believe that you're only good right at the end, then, it takes a little bit of zing off that man as well. So when you start sending in other people, what it tells the guy who's padded up and waiting to go in, saying, listen, we don't trust you that much. So I think, I don't know whether it's his ability that they don't trust, or they trust him so much that they think no matter what the situation is, Shah Rukh Khan will see us through. I know Shah Rukh Khan, I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a man of the future. He's a player to watch out for. But even a player like that, needs to be looked after. And he's just seen a guy who's played a couple of games, who's played for India, being dropped after 2 innings. So, your mind is not as free or as fresh when you walk in every time. Ritesh has just had one game. And Oden Smith is a chance you've taken. Once you've taken a chance in that auction and bought him, then where else can you play him? So this is your 5, 6, 7, 8. So I don't see, unless personnel changes, then it'll be too early. And I think then what I call with IPL teams is, then it's Khalbali, because it's already Khalbali according to me. You started with dropping a couple of guys within the third game, and it's not conditional. It's not because of the situation or the opposition that you've changed those players. So if they do what you say, I think they'll probably be in more trouble.
Yeah. Jitesh, by the way.
Jitesh, apologies.
Yes. J for Jamnagar. We won't forget. Of course, he is, by the way, we were talking about whether it's going to be him or Bhanuka Rajapaksa. Jitesh Sharma does have the gloves on, and the man who's opened the bowling is Vaibhav Arora. He's the one who's come into the side instead of Harpreet Brar. Final thought, Anil Kumble will have had a long chat with his boys, Parthiv. Do they have the bowling to defend 180?
See, skill-wise, they definitely have that skill. It's not about skill, as Jadupa rightly said. It's about mindset. In last game, I thought they were really, on a defensive mode. But here, if they want to win game, you want to see Kagiso Rabada not to have that short third man. He did get Ajinkya Rahane out at short third man. On a bounce like this on a wicket in Mumbai, you want to have slips. You want to see slips. And to me, I think the attacking mindset, try and get them out. Try and get, say, 20 for 3 or something. Only then they can come into the game. With the kind of pitch this is, I think on a normal circumstances, this is 160 runs. It's not 180 on the board. But if it was a normal circumstance, it is 160 kind of score. So, if you want to defend 160 kind of score, you have to have early wickets, and only then they can get into the game.
One thing they do have in their favour, Ajay, at least seems to be a bit of variety. They've got the wrist spinner in Rahul Chahar. They've got the international experience of a Kagiso Rabada. Yes, the untried Vaibhav Arora. And of course, year after year, it's Arshdeep Singh who comes in there as the solid man.
Yeah, Arshdeep Singh, Rahul Chahar, Kagiso Rabada. These are 3 guys that you think that would, play their roles pretty well. They generally do their job. It's the young man, and again, that Oden Smith, I think even with his bowling, it's very similar to his batting. Either you might get something spectacular, or you'll get something that you'd be worried about, what are we doing with this guy in our side? So Rahul Chahar probably holds the key. Like Parthiv said, is absolutely right. He's looking at 20 for 3. Maybe I would say even at 40 for 3, they might be lucky if they get there. And then Rahul Chahar comes in and does his job. But it's a tough one. I don't see Punjab, pulling this one off, because don't forget, Chennai's been down and out couple of games. Their battings looked good. Rituraj's not scored runs, so it's an opportunity for him to take it easy, give them a good start. So looking from Chennai's point of view, I think they should cruise through this game.
And look at that batting lineup. They bat right down. I mean, Dwayne Pretorius, I don't think is quite going to be known at number 11. So they bat right down to Bravo, Jordan Pretorius, the 3 all-rounders. And before that, they've got loads and loads of runs up there. So if they were to not get this, it'll take something special with ball in hand. Already Weber found the outside edge of the bat, falling short of Shikhar Dhawan in the first over. No damage yet. Chennai still underway. Chennai still favourites. Will things change? 10 over mark will tell a story. We'll be there on Cricbuzz Combox. For now, from Parthiv Patel, Ajay Jadeja and myself, that's all on Cricbuzz Live.